Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadanti Supadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Utapatakamelam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Ragunatham Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaidam Savadudam Parijana Saidam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shivishakam Vidamscha Ye Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpade Gopesha Gopika Kanda Radha Kanda Namosude Aptakanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavane Tabano Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpata Rubdesha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Duranam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Budale Srimade Bhaktivedanta Swami Nidramini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prajarini Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Pashati Deshikari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shiksharthameka Purusha Purana Hare Krishna Chaitanya Sharira Dhari Kripambudiryastamaham Prabhadhye Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupasvarupakam Bhaktapadaram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Chittikam Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hari Om Tat Sat. So we are reading from Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, chapter 23 or 24?
Chapter 23.
Prabhuji, it's at 23, Prabhuji.
23, okay. Which para?
Is Lord Chaitanya advised Sri Prakashananda Saraswati.
Okay. So chapter 23. Lord Chaitanya therefore advised Prakashananda Saraswati, always read Srimad Bhagavatam and try to understand each and every verse. Then you will actually understand the Brahma Sutra. You say that you are very eager to study the Vedanta Sutra, but you cannot understand the Vedanta Sutra without understanding Srimad Bhagavatam. He also advised Prakashananda Saraswati to always chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. By doing this, you will be very easily be liberated. After liberation, you will be eligible to achieve the highest goal of life, love of God. So as we all know, Prakashananda Saraswati was a hardcore impersonalist before he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He, along with his disciples, were into study of Vedanta Sutra, Upanishad. So they were hardcore impersonalists. After having discussion with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prakashananda Saraswati, along with his disciples, became Vaishnavas. So that's why Lord Chaitanya is advising Prakashananda Saraswati to read Srimad Bhagavatam. That is the natural commentary of Vedanta Sutra. Okay. So Vedanta Sutra is the natural commentary. Which one? Srimad Bhagavatam. Natural commentary of Vedanta Sutra is Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why he is telling, read Srimad Bhagavatam. And also chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Why? Because that is the mantra recommended in the age of Kali. It's not that other mantras are irrelevant or, not the right mantras. But for this particular age of Kali, this is the mantra recommended for all of us. So that's why he recommended Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And by chanting this mantra and by reading and understanding and implementing the instructions given in Srimad Bhagavatam, one will easily be liberated. And after liberation, what will happen? We'll achieve the highest goal of life. What is highest goal of life? What is the highest goal of life?
Going back to Godhead.
Yes, love of Krishna, love of Godhead. Okay, love of Godhead. That's the highest goal. Liberation is secondary for devotees. Liberation is automatically achieved. Our motto, our goal is love of Krishna, love of Godhead. Okay, liberation is automatically achieved by devotees. They don't endeavor specifically for liberation. Okay, they are not after liberation. Yes, for others, liberation is the goal of life, because getting out of miseries, getting out of anxieties, for those who are following other path of Sanatana Dharma, for them liberation is number one. As far as Vaishnavas are concerned, as far as devotees are concerned, for them love of Godhead is the ultimate goal of life. Those who have achieved love of Godhead, they are already liberated. No special endeavor is required for liberation. It is said that liberation, that is bhukti and mukti, sense enjoyment and mukti, liberation, are standing on the threshold of devotee's house as maid servants. That is what Rupa Goswami says. Bhukti, mukti, that is, they are like maid servants standing to be awarded to the devotees, but they don't care. They don't want sense enjoyment. They don't want liberation. What is the goal? They just want to serve the Supreme Lord birth after birth, in whatever condition, whatever situation they are in. Even if they are put in hell, no problem. They are ready to accept, but they should not be devoid of service. So their motto is to serve the Supreme Lord and to achieve love of God. That's why Prakashanta Saraswati was advised by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in this way. So any questions or any comments? Okay, we'll read further. The Lord then recited many verses from authoritative scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and the Narasimha Tapani Upanishad. So one thing we have to understand from this is that, devotees are not giving any instruction whimsically. They give adequate, sufficient quotations from the Puranas, from the Vedas, from the Upanishads. It's all based on the Shastric proofs, Shastric evidences. That's why Lord, just to make his statement concrete, he quotes verses from authoritative scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and Narasimha Tapani Upanishad. So it's not just, whimsically, oh, what this is my feeling, this is my thinking, like that. He doesn't say like that. Says this is actually there in the scriptures, and these are confirmed by authorities, saintly personalities. So he quotes from Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na sochadi na kankshadi sama sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labade para. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quotes from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. What does it mean? When one actually becomes self-realized, knowing that he is Brahman. So how do you understand this? When one actually becomes self-realized, knowing that he is Brahman. So, the other school of thoughts, the devotees of other sampradaya or other school of thoughts, take this in a different sense. How do Vaishnavas take this? When one actually becomes self-realized, knowing that he is Brahman, he becomes happy and joyful, and no longer feels any lamentation or angry. So the other school of thoughts, other devotees, they consider themselves to be Brahman, means they are equal to the Supreme Lord. Can we at any point of time ever become equal to the Supreme Lord? So here Brahman means, actually contextual wise, we have to understand the meaning. It can be referred to Jivatma also, it can be referred to Paramatma also. Actually, the right word is Parabrahman. Parabrahman is the Supreme Lord. We are Brahman. We are Amsha. We are just the part of that Supreme Lord. We are not Parabrahman. We are Brahman only because we are also spirit. Okay. Constitutionally, we are spirit soul. Okay, Satchidananda. But he is Parabrahman, he is Supreme Brahman. So we can never become Supreme Brahman. So Brahman here means that we are the part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, spirit soul. Okay, but we are individual. We are not supreme. So when we realize that we are Brahman, we become joyful and no longer feels any lamentation. Na sochadi, na kankshadi. No longer feels any lamentation or hankering. But now that we are on the bodily conception of life, we have not realized it. Theoretically, yes, we know that. We are Brahman, we are not the body. But we have not realized practically or that Vijnana is there. Jnana is there, Vijnana is not there. So such a person sees all living entities on an equal level and becomes a pure devotee of the Supreme Personality of God. So those who have realized that, he sees equally with equal vision. Is there again the Srimad Bhagavad Gita? What is that sloka? The learned person sees with equal vision everyone. What is the sloka? Nobody remembers?
I remember Prabhuji, one line Gavi Hastani, that one has equal.
Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, Brahmane Gavi Hastani, Suni Chaiva Sopakecha, Pandita Samadarsina. Samadarshi, equal vision, is a learned person. Those who realize Brahman. But theoretically, we know okay, that we are Brahman, body is temporary, spirit soul is Sanatana, permanent, and we are part of the Supreme Lord. All these things theoretically very well we know, accept it also. But to live on that in a practical way, to implement that in our day-to-day life, it's a bit difficult. Only through bhajan, through devotional service, we'll advance and come to that level. So without bhajan, how much ever we may read or understand theoretically Srimad Bhagavatam, without bhajan, without devotional service, we will not realize. People are, asking, I am practicing Krishna consciousness for last 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, but still, I have not realized Brahman. Okay, I have not self-realized. Why? Because the proper devotional service is not there. Okay. We are all doing part-time devotional service. Okay. That is the reason. The proper chanting is not there. The proper Vaishnava Seva is not there. The proper association is not there. If we have these three, that is chanting and association and Bhagavad Parayana and living a life according to the instruction given in that. We are not doing that. And we are not attentively chanting. We are chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Looking here and there, our mind wanders here there. Offenselessly, we are not chanting. We are not attentive in our chanting. We are not sincere. We are chanting. Yes, there is benefit, definitely. It's not that there is no benefit. There is benefit, sure. But attentive and offenseless chanting will bring benefit fast. Otherwise, it will take time. It will take time. So, attentive and offenseless chanting should be there. We should scrutinizingly study Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and other literature, scriptures, and try to implement the instructions given in the Shastras, as per Guru Sadhana Shastra in our day-to-day life. Then Vaishnava Seva, association with Vaishnavas. If we are following this, then definitely, in this life itself, will be self-realized. So next he quoted a statement from Shankaracharya's commentary on the Narasimha Tapani Upanishad. So Adi Shankaracharya has given commentary, on the Narasimha Tapani Upanishad. This statement says that when a person is actually liberated, he can understand the transcendental pastimes of Supreme Lord and thus engage in his devotional service. So for many of them, liberation is ultimate. But for Vaishnavas, for devotees, liberation is a beginning point from where they will start devotional service in the pure mode of goodness. Okay, it's not that they are not practicing before, but in the pure mode of goodness, only after liberation they will be doing the devotional service. So this is there from the Narasimha Tapani Upanishad, commentary of Adi Shankaracharya. Lord Chaitanya also quoted a verse from the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 2.1.9, in which Sukadeva Goswami states that although he was elevated to the liberated stage and freed from the clutches of Maya, he was still attracted by the transcendental pastimes of Krishna. Consequently, he studied Srimad Bhagavatam from this great father, Vyasadeva. So we all know that Sukadeva Goswami, he was an impersonalist, Brahmavadi, that Brahman is everything. Okay. So he was not into devotional service at all. So after he learned Srimad Bhagavatam from his great father Vyasadeva, he understood the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam and he understood the importance of devotional service. That's what it is said that Sukadeva Goswami is telling himself that although he was elevated to the liberated, he was a liberated person already, but he was not into devotional service because he was a Brahmavadi. He was not accepting the form of the Supreme Lord. He thought that Brahman is everything. Sarvam Kalvidan Brahman. Okay, everything is Brahman. So he was not accepting the fact that Lord Krishna or the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a person. When he heard the two slokas from the disciples of Vyasadeva, he was totally, taken aback. Oh, such a beautiful form of the Supreme Lord. Who is that beautifully? Varhapitam, that sloka, and about the mercy that is given to Putana. Okay, these two sloka he heard from the disciples of Srila Vyasadeva, so was so much attracted. Then he asked, who has composed this? Very beautiful. I want to know more about this. Bhagwan. Your father himself has done. So how come he has not taught me? Then immediately he rushed back to his father Vyasadeva. Then please explain to me. Then Vyasadeva taught him the complete Bhagavatam. That is how he becomes a person and he becomes a devotee of the Supreme Lord. So he learned from his great father Vyasadeva about Srimad Bhagavatam. It was Sukadeva Goswami then recited this same Bhagavatam, in a beautiful way. Although it was compiled by Vyasadeva, it was narrated very nicely in a very, very beautiful way to Parishit Maharaj by Sukadeva Goswami. Okay, so Sukadeva Goswami is also one of the Mahajan. Okay. So he became personalist, he became a devotee after learning Srimad Bhagavatam from Srila Vyasadeva. So next, Lord Chaitanya quoted another sloka of Srimad Bhagavatam 3.15.43, which deals with the Kumaras. So another example is giving. Because why is he giving all this example to Prakashan Saraswati and disciple? Because they're all at that point of time Brahmavadis. Okay, Nirakara, Nirvishesha, Nirguna, that sort of conception. So unless and until you quote with examples, with verses from scriptures, people will not listen. That's why when we say something, it should be substantiated with some slokas from the scriptures. Then people will accept it. Otherwise, oh, this is your opinion. My opinion has no value. Either it should be substantiated by scriptures or it should have been quoted by some saintly personalities like, Parasara Muni, Vyasadeva, like that, great personalities. Shankaracharya, Brahmanacharya, Madhvacharya, all these statements we can take as it is. That's the reason he is quoting with. Now he is telling about the Kumaras. When the Kumaras entered the temple of the Lord, they were attracted by the aroma of the flowers and tulsi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord with pulp of sandalwood. Even Kumaras went to the Vaikuntha planet after passing through the 7 gates. When he reached the 7th gate, they were stopped. By whom? By Jaya Vijaya. So they got annoyed. How is that we were not allowed to see the Lord? Of course, it was a Leela played by the Supreme Lord by his own sweet will. But then, hearing this commotion, Lord Vishnu appeared, and when they smelled the aroma that has come from the flowers and especially tulasi that was offered at the lotus feet of Supreme Lord, they were totally taken aback and they became pure devotees of Supreme Lord. So Sanat Kumaras also got converted into devotees. So how? By just smelling the aroma of the flowers and tulasi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord with pulp of sandalwood. That's why when we are doing Arati also, worship also, we're offering tulasi dipped in Ganga water and dipped in sandalwood water.
Okay, there is some disturbance on your signal.
It's okay. Can you hear? Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, now it is okay.
Okay. So that's why when we worship also, we take a tulasi leaf, dip it in Ganga water and sandalwood put at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Okay. So this we can do always. Simple, and Lord is also very pleased. Tulasi. Tulasi is the pure devotee of the Supreme Lord. Always stays at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. So by doing so, we'll also gets little Krishna Prema by the mercy of the Supreme Lord and Tulsi Maharani. So simply by the Kumara smelling the aroma of these offerings, their minds turned to the service of the Supreme Lord. Then they wanted to serve the Supreme Lord. Till then they were not serving. They were not into devotional service. Although the Kumaras were already liberated souls, they were liberated, but they were not devotees. They were not devotees, who were into devotional service of Supreme Lord. It is stated elsewhere in Bhagavatam 1.7.10 that even if one is a liberated soul and is actually free from material contamination, he can still become attracted to rendering the Supreme Lord devotional service that is causeless and unhampered by any material propensity. This is because God is so attractive, and because he is so attractive, he is called Krishna. So why Lord is called Krishna? Because of his attraction. He is attracting everybody with his opulences. Akarshnada idi Krishna. He attracts with the 6 main opulences. There is nobody who can be equal to Krishna in the 6 opulences. Which are the 6 opulences with which he attracts everyone? Aishwaryasya samagrasya veerasya yasasriya jnana vairagya seva shannam bhagga idingara. Okay, these are the 6 opulences, and 100%. We also have these opulences in very, very minute quantity. In our human society also we'll find beautiful people, right? And some people, beautiful ladies. Beauty is there. Rich people, there are, very rich also you will find. Very powerful, very knowledgeable, okay, and very, very renounced. But in compared to Lord Krishna's, these opulences are very, very minute, just like a drop of water in the ocean. If Lord is, considered to be the ocean, our opulences is considered to be a drop in that ocean. That's why it's called Krishna. Akarshnadi idi Krishna. In this way, Lord Chaitanya began to discuss the Atma Rama verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, which Prakashananda Saraswati, Lord Chaitanya's admirer, the Maharashtrian Brahmana, related that the Lord had earlier explained this verse in 61 different ways. How? It was during the discussion with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Okay, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was also an impersonalist Brahmavadi. So he wanted to teach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Vedanta Sutra. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 7 days, he continuously heard from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Okay. Then after 7 days, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked, did you understand anything? You did not speak any word. I do not know whether you understood anything. It can mean that you understood everything or you did not understand anything because you were quiet. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I understood all that you have spoken, the verses, but your explanation, I could not understand. It is not at all the right explanation. And especially this particular verse, Atma Ramasya Manayo. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he explained this verse in 9 different ways. Okay, when he was giving a class to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But after that, when he asked, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained the same verse in 61 different ways without touching the explanation of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, that he had given 9 different ways. So that's what it is mentioned here. Different versions of Lord's explanation of the Atma Rama sloka. And since they were so eager, Lord Chaitanya again explained the sloka in the same way that he had explained to Sanatana Goswami. Okay, it was explained to Sanatana Goswami. Even Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya also it was explained. But it is mainly in the Sanatana Siksha. 1 second. So it is given mainly in the Sanatana Siksha. Okay, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave 2 months teachings to Sanatana Goswami. So in that he explained in 61 different ways. So everyone who heard the explanations of the Atma Rama sloka was amazed. Indeed, everyone considered Lord Chaitanya to be none other than Sri Krishna. No human being, no mortal beings can explain this way. So everyone accepted that he is none other than Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So they accepted the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and all of them became Prakashananda Saraswati, along with the 60,000 disciples became Vaishnavas. This is how he converted all impersonalists into Vaishnava devotees of Supreme Lord. Okay, any comments or any? So we have completed this chapter 23. So any questions or? Shall we continue to the next chapter?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah, chapter 24 talks with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. When Lord Chaitanya met Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya at Jagannath Puri, the Bhattacharya, being the greatest logician of the day, wanted to teach the Lord Vedanta philosophy. Since the Bhattacharya was an elderly man, the age of Lord Chaitanya's father, he took compassion on the young sannyasi and requested him to learn the Vedanta Sutra from him. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after he left Navadvipa, he went to Jagannath Puri at the request of his mother, Sachi Mataji. Because actually he was planning to go to Vrindavan, but Vrindavan is too far as Navadip is concerned. And there are devotees going to Jagannath Puri every year. So it is easy for Mother Sachi to get news about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from Jagannath Puri. So it was the request of Mother Sachi that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should stay in Jagannath Puri rather than in Vrindavan. Okay. So when he reached there, so he went to the temple of Jagannath Puri. There he was dancing in ecstatic way. He got unconscious, and he was a superintendent. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was a superintendent of Jagannath Puri at that time. When he came, no, there's a very young sannyasi. He was just 24 years old at that time. A very young sannyasi, in ecstatic way, he was dancing and he fell unconscious. So immediately he arranged to get him to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house. After seeing him, and that's so effulgent, he inquired about him, and he came to know that he's from Navadip and all these things, and his brother-in-law, that is Gobin, what is his name? What is his name? Anyway, his brother-in-law informed Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya that he is not an ordinary person. But still he was not listening to his brother-in-law. Okay, Gopinath Acharya, I think so. Anyway, so he is a young sannyasi, doing sentimentally this Hare Krishna mantra rather than studying this Vedanta and Upanishads and all. So he also wanted to teach him. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wanted to teach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he said, see, you have taken sannyasa from a lower grade of, Bharati, Keshav Bharati. I will give you sannyasa in a high grade. Why? You are a very handsome, very effulgent, very learned person, and you are young. I will give you sannyasa in a high grade. Bharati is a lower grade. There are different, title for sannyasis. So from whom? Keshav Bharati, he took sannyasa from. Who? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, I will give you on a higher this thing. Bhattacharya. Okay. So I will teach you Vedanta Sutra. So please come. So that's what it is said there. Wanted to teach Lord Vedanta philosophy. Since the Bhattacharya was an elderly man, the age of Lord Chaitanya's father, he took compassion on the young sannyasi, requested him to learn Vedanta Sutra from him. Who is Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya in his previous life?
Brahaspati.
Brahaspati, yes. It was Brahaspati. So in the Chaitanya Leela, he came as Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. The Bhattacharya maintained it would be difficult for the youthful Lord Chaitanya to continue as a sannyasi. When the Lord agreed, the Bhattacharya began to teach him in the temple of Jagannatha. The Bhattacharya spoke to the Lord about the Vedanta Sutra continually for 7 days. 7 days. Okay. And the Lord heard him without speaking a word. He did not utter even a single word. On the 8th day, the Bhattacharya said, you have been hearing the Vedanta Sutra from me for the past week, but you have not asked any questions, nor have you indicated whether I am explaining it nicely. So I cannot tell whether you are understanding me or not. So it was a dilemma for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. The Lord did not utter even a single word. Is it that he understands anything, or he is not understanding me at all? So that's why he put forward a question. So I am a fool. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Bhattacharya, I am a fool. The Lord replied, I have no capacity to study the Vedanta Sutra, but since you asked me to hear you, I am trying to listen. Because you are an elderly person, you are instructing me to hear you. As an obedient servant, I am just listening to you. In fact, I am a fool. I don't understand anything. But I am trying to listen to you because you have instructed me to so. So I'm simply listening to you because you said that it is the duty of every sannyasi to hear the Vedanta Sutra. But as far as your explanation is concerned, that I cannot understand. as far as the explanation, okay, of the sutras are concerned, I cannot understand. Thus the Lord indicated that in Mayavadi Sampradaya, sorry. Mayavadi Sampradaya, there are many so-called sannyasis who, even although illiterate and unintelligent, hear the Vedanta Sutra from the spiritual master just as a matter of formality. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling that there are other sannyasis in that Mayavadi Sampradaya that, as a matter of formality, they are listening. They don't understand anything, but still it's a formality that although they listen, they do not understand anything. As far as Lord Chaitanya was concerned, the reason he said he did not understand the explanation of Bhattacharya was not because it was too difficult for him to understand, but because he did not approve of the Mayavadi interpretation. So what's the reason that he did not? It's not that he did not understand. He did not approve the interpretation of the Mayavadi philosophers. That was the reason. When the Lord said that he was an uneducated fool and could not follow the exposition, Bhattacharya replied, if you do not follow what I am saying, why don't you inquire? Usually, this is what, when we are listening to somebody, if you don't follow, we'll ask you, please explain to me again. I do not follow you. But he did not ask anything. That's why Bhattacharya is asking, why, if you did not understand, why don't you inquire? Why do you simply sit silently? It appears that you do have something to say about my explanation. So from this, what I understand is that you have some reason, you want to, tell me. That's the reason that you did not ask anything. So you have something to say about my explanation. You want to comment on my explanation. My dear sir, the Lord replied, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, as far as the Vedanta Sutra itself is concerned, I can understand the meaning quite well. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu opens his heart now. Vedanta Sutra, I understand the meaning, but I cannot understand your explanation. Your purport, your explanation, I cannot understand. There is nothing difficult about understanding the meaning of the original aphorisms of the Vedanta Sutra, but the way you explain them obscures the real meaning. So the real meaning is getting diluted when you explain that. You do not elucidate the direct meaning, but imagine something and thus obscure the true meaning. So you are speaking on an imaginary platform and you are keeping away the real meaning of the Vedanta Sutras. I think that you have a particular doctrine you are trying to expound through the aphorisms of the Vedanta Sutra. So this is the reason that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. According to the Muktika Upanishad, there are 108 Upanishads. Among these are the Isha, Kena, Katha, Prashna, Mundaka, Mandukya, Taitriya, Aitreya, Chandogya, Brahadaranyaka, Brahma, Kaivalya, Jabala, Svetasudara, Amsa, Arunaya, Garbha, and Narayana Upanishad. Okay. The 108 Upanishad contain all knowledge about the absolute truth. Sometimes people ask why Vaishnavas use 108 prayer beads for chanting the holy names. We think it is because there are 108 Upanishads containing full knowledge of the absolute truth. On the other hand, some Vaishnava transcendentalists think that the 108 beads represent the 108 companions of Lord Krishna in his dasa dance. So, why we are chanting 108 times this Hare Krishna Mantra, the beads, the prayer beads. Okay, 108 prayer beads are there, isn't it? In one mala. So either it is representing 108 Upanishads, which speaks extensively about the Supreme Absolute Truth, or it is 108 gopis of Lord Krishna, the prime gopis. Lord Chaitanya protested against misinterpretations of the Upanishads, rejecting any explanation which did not give their direct meaning. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected the explanation of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya because it was not giving the direct meaning of the Vedanta Sutra. Direct interpretation is called Abhidha Vritti, whereas the indirect interpretation is called Lakshana Vritti. Okay, the direct interpretation serves no purpose. Sorry, the indirect interpretation serves no purpose. 4 kinds of understanding: direct understanding Pratyaksha, hypothetical understanding Anumana, historical understanding Aitihya, and understanding through sound. Okay, so here they have given 4 types of understanding in a subject matter. One is Pratyaksha Praman. Okay, that is what we see. We understand by seeing. Okay, by our vision, direct vision. Then Anumana, that is hypothetical understanding. Then historical, whatever is Aitihya, history. It may be, it may not be correct. When we go to a temple, which is very old, 1,000, 2,000 years. So we say it's a Aitihya, it's a historical understanding. There may be some dilution, some interpolation, some misinterpretation in that idea. We don't know exactly whether it is right or not. So that's called idea. Then understanding through sound, Shabda. That is the right way of understanding any spiritual subject, any subject matter for that matter, including material knowledge also. Okay. It's coming from the right source, bona fide source. That's called Shabda. Of these 4, understanding from the Vedic scriptures, sound representation of the absolute truth is the best method. Traditional Vedic students accept understanding through sound to be the best. So Vedic students accept it from Shabda Pramana. That comes in bona fide disciplic succession, unbroken. It stems from Lord Krishna, through the parampara, it comes to all of us. Now, the example is given here. The stool and bone of any living entity are considered to be impure according to Vedic literature. Yet the same Vedic literature says that cow dung and corn shells are very pure. We know that any stool and bone is not auspicious for spiritual activities, spiritual purposes. Okay, but here, although it is said that Vedic literature asserts that cow dung is a stool of an animal, cow, but it is, antiseptic, and it is used for all our spiritual purpose also to, smear the floor, isn't it? We don't treat that as inauspicious. And conch shells, it's also bone of a, aquatic, but that's also used in the puja. It's also pure, by the way, as per Vedas. Although there's a general information that stool and bones are inauspicious, but here same Veda says that conch shell and cow dung are pure. Apparently, these statements are contradictory, but because cow dung and conch shells are considered pure by the Vedas, they are accepted as pure by the followers of the Vedas without argument. If we try to understand the statements by indirect interpretation, creating some hypothesis, then we challenge the evidential authority of the Vedic statements. In other words, Vedic statements cannot be accepted according to our imperfect interpretation. They must be accepted as they are. If they are not accepted in this way, there is no authority in the Vedic statement. So the Vedic statement should be accepted as it is. We should not try to misinterpret those Vedic statements. According to Lord Chaitanya, according to Lord Chaitanya, those who try to give some personal interpretation of Vedic statements are not at all intelligent. So we read some, Vedic slokas. We try to interpret the way we understand that. That we should not do. We should repeat what the acharyas have said. Don't try to use our tiny brain in interpreting that, because we don't have that, perfect indriyas, senses to interpret that. We are all contaminated. So there are acharyas who are pure devotees, whatever they say, we have to just accept it. In India, there is a class of men known as Arya Samajis, who say that they accept the original Vedas only and reject all other Vedic literature. So the 4 Vedas they accept, and other Vedic literature they will not accept. The motive of these people, however, is to give their own interpretation. It's not that everything should be accepted. All compiled by Vyasadeva is all in relationship with the Vedas only. Vedas, Upanishads, Puranas, Aranyakas, Samhitas, all these things we should accept. These are all coming in Shrutis and Smritis. According to Lord Chaitanya, such interpretations are not to be accepted. They are simply not Vedic. Lord Chaitanya said that the Vedic statements of the Upanishads are like sunlight. Everything is clear and very distinct when it is seen in the sunlight. So when sun is there, it's shining, it's very bright. We can see the things as it is. When the sun sets, we cannot see. So there should be light. So Upanishads are like sunlight. Everything is clear and very distinct when it is seen with sunlight. The statements of the Vedas are similarly clear and distinct. Mayavadi philosophers simply cover the sunlight in the cloud of their misinterpretation. So the Mayavadi philosophers simply cover the sunlight with the cloud of their misinterpretation. That's what is said here. Okay, we'll read one more para, then we'll stop. Lord Chaitanya then said that all the Vedic statements of Upanishads aim at the ultimate truth known as Brahman. Okay, so that this ultimate truth known as Brahman, here the Brahman is the Parabrahman, it is. So according to context, we have to understand the meaning of certain words in Sanskrit. Okay, the word Brahman means the greatest. Are we the greatest? They are also Brahman. But we are not the greatest. Supreme Lord is the greatest. And the greatest should immediately be understood to refer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Source of all emanations. Unless the greatest possesses 6 opulences in full, he cannot be called the greatest. So what is this thing? Yardstick? To understand that he should possess all the 6 opulences in full, 100%. The greatest is therefore the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, Supreme Brahman is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita 10.12, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is accepted by Arjuna as the Supreme Brahman. The conceptions of this impersonal Brahman and the localized super souls are contained within the understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna says, Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam, Adi Devam, Ajam Vibhum. Ahastam Rishaya Sarve, Devarshi Nardastada, Ashito Devara Vyaso, Soyam Chaiva Brabhishimi. So he confirms, he very clearly says, so all the 9 attributes he is given, Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan, Purusham, Shashvatam, Divyam, Adi Devam, Ajam Vibhum. These are the qualities, attributes, given to whom? Lord Krishna. Then he is further telling that it's not me alone. All the saintly personalities like Ashita, Devala, Vyasa, Narada, everybody confirms this. And not only that, you yourself are confirming this to me. Soyam Chaiva Brabhishimi. So, Lord Krishna is the Parabrahman. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As per all the Vedic literatures, one should accept that. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Okay, so we'll stop here. So please make a note of next para. Whenever we speak of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from there. Okay, so I'll stop here. Hare Krishna.